Welcome to the inaugural podcast of Restaurants Uncensored. And we are starting off with a heavy hitter here. I'm so excited to introduce you to Cunningham, the owner, operator, and fantastic restaurateur of the Dandelion Cafe in Ashland. Caitlin's going to come forth and be very humble in this, but as you're going to soon to find out, Caitlin is extraordinary and is doing some pretty extraordinary things. And we're very excited to hear the story today about the starting and the continuation of the Dandelion Cafe. So, Caitlin, welcome. Excited to have you here on our podcast.
Thank you. I now I'm all flustered because you told me to find a quiet place. And then of course, like the one time I'm sitting here quietly and my doorbell rings, which is actually kind of nice because it throws me off my game because I appreciate that wonderful introduction, but it's I'm new to this game, so I have to take your word for most of the things that you said.
Well, you can't really tell, and that's kind of the beauty of it. And I do want to be super transparent up front. One of the reasons why I know Caitlin so well is I was part of the process, a very small part. I think that Caitlin will disagree with that, but I was a small part of the process to get Dandelion open and helped out with a lot of the stuff when it came into front end planning. So I've been a part of this process since the beginning with you. And I remember sitting down at a big table and kind of discussing over lunch what your plan was for this. And it's really cool to sit here a few months past that and think about, actually, it's been almost a year past that point in time, if not a year exactly.
It's been a year. It's been, I only know this because I had to sign a new lease for the space, but it has been, when he came up to me and he was like, it's time to sign a new lease. And I was like, wait, I'm sorry, what?
Wow. That's crazy to think it's already been a year.
So the project at least has been ongoing for at least a year. So yeah.
Well, we sat in that room together, and I tried to talk you out of making the worst life decision you can ever make, which is opening up a restaurant/cafe. But I wasn't able to do so. I wasn't able to do so. And the beauty of it is because I was immediately bought in because you were able to explain your why better than just about anybody in the restaurant business. So talk a little bit about your why behind starting the Dandelion.
So that's, when I was thinking about talking to you today, and I knew that was something that you wanted me to make sure that I addressed. I was like, do you really want to open with that? It just seems really heavy. It sometimes has a tendency to get a little bit heavy. So I'll try to keep it as realistic as possible. But my big why is always to be boiled down to learning and growing and connecting. So within the space at the Dandelion, it has been from the beginning imbued with these values of being inclusive and being positive and meeting the world where it is and trying to improve upon it. When we tore all of the walls down in the space that was, for all intents and purposes, a garage, before we put anything back up, we spray painted positive intentions around the space on the walls before we put any more drywall up, because to us, we knew going into this, anybody who walks into the Dandelion is automatically faced with a lot of what some people might call I can't think of it now. Oh, I know it. Oh, God. Virtue signaling. And you walk up and there's a rainbow flag, a Black Lives Matter flag, and a transgender flag right off the bat. And then you walk into this space and it's very clear that this space is for individuals who has been built by and for individuals who might have existed in the margins and are marginalized members or marginalized populations. And so my why was really, coffee's great. I like coffee. I love food. But, I think most restaurant people come into things I say most restaurant people, like I know so many, because they have a passion for food, or they have a passion for drink, or they have a passion for the art of feeding people. And for me, it was more, how can I sustain a space financially where individuals have a place to be and have a place to connect and have a place to be safe. Um, and and for me, the Dandelion grew from this idea of finding something that would work in terms of keeping some ongoing revenue, but not being focused about the products or anything of that nature, but more on what was happening within the walls. And we get a lot of people who come in who will say this place is built with love. You can feel that this place is built with love. And that's everybody from, families that live in the area to people who just happen to be driving through, to the DJs that come to do our karaoke and our trivia. It's very humbling, and it's very impactful to hear people say that they can feel the love that the walls were built with, because that is the whole purpose of that space, is to be a space where you can connect and learn and grow. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. And that's what got me bought in, because for being in the restaurant business as long as I have, when you talk to folks who want to get in the restaurant business that don't have a lot of experience, it's like, I just want to make a lot of money. I think I made a lot of money at it. I've got this great spaghetti recipe that my mom gave me. I feel like I can make an entire restaurant around that. I'm just in it to create something that I can showcase for my business partners, to show them that I can pull this off. And I've been a part of several restaurants whose mission was geared towards stuff like that. And when you presented to me your mission in that way, I was like, this is going to be successful. I'm in, because it's less than 1% of restaurateurs that get into the business for the right reasons. And that was the, shibboleth, so to say, when it came to opening up the restaurant and being as successful as you've been so far. So I applaud you for that.
Yeah, 100%. It's, again, like I'll probably say this over and over again while we're talking today. And I know I say it to you every time that we're together, but like, I have like no idea. And I think that's a part of where some of I know that people feel that the space is something different, and that I would be silly not to acknowledge the fact that probably has more than likely something to do with the fact that I jokingly like to be like, let's see, how long have I been open? 6, 7 months. Okay. So I have 6 or 7 months in the restaurant business, and I was a teacher for 10 years. Doing something that I'm uncertain about every single day. I was walking into a classroom uncertain, how the kids were going to be or anything like that, and how the lesson was going to go. And so for me, it seemed a natural progression to being able to connect with a community in a more one-on-one way. And people need spaces. People need spaces where they feel safe. And a coffee shop has always been something that has provided a space for people with very low expectation. Like, you can go into a coffee shop and buy a coffee and sit for hours. And, I've done it myself, where I've taken up a huge amount of space for a project that I was working on in college. And I bought like a sandwich and was there for hours. And it's always felt to me like that was a place where you could kind of get comfortable. And so the natural tendency then was, like, what can we do? And it kind of grew from there. I did not expect for it to be the extensive like menu and stuff that it is. Like, we have a full-on restaurant. And that's fantastic. But and I've grown to like love feeding people. Like, it makes me really happy when people are complimentary about the food that we make or the drinks that we make, but more than anything, it's getting to see people's faces when they walk in and they instantly obviously feel at home. And that's what's important to me. And I think that's what's unique about this space as well, is that it's not built to be a cafe. It's not built to be a restaurant. A lot of people joked when I was making it and I was describing kind of the concept to them about the events that I wanted to have and the feeling that I wanted to have and the furniture and the music and the staff and the food. And, and more than one person was like, so you're building a clubhouse for yourself. And I was like, yeah, like that's the dream, right? Like, yeah. So that's kind of what it's become, is like it's basically an extension of a family room. Everybody can just come and be together.
That's definitely the vibe. And you have certainly nailed that. And now that we've gotten the heavy stuff out of the way as to your why, we'll go more into a different side.
Some of the other things you sent me were pretty.
Oh, we'll come back to it. But one of the things that I think is cool about the podcast is I kind of wanted to feature beverages on this as well. And you are a cafe owner with both amazing coffee beverages as well as alcoholic beverages. You've got an amazing local person that's helped you with that drink menu and created some extremely wonderful cocktails. But what are you drinking on today? You got something fancy over there?
Oh, yes, it is extraordinarily fancy. I feel like, honestly, more often than not, people that I talk to are also drinking this. So this is my black box Sauvignon Blanc.
Love that.
But we don't. But this is just the at-home wine.
That is fantastic. I'm not drinking it. I'm also drinking a Sauvignon Blanc, Kirkland brand, baller on a budget. So no issue with that. And as I always say, my favorite drink is whatever's in my hand currently. And so cheers to you. Cheers to you for that. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a baller on a budget. Yes, exactly.
I've got Boda Box. I got Boda Box too.
Yeah, for sure. No. I feel that. Oh.
Well, very cool. Well, I know one of the things that brings so much brightness whenever you talk about that is your staff. The folks that you have embraced and made a part of the Dandelion family. And I will point this out. I was just in the Dandelion, I think it was even yesterday, and just wanted to stop in, grab a quick couple cinnamon rolls for Pops and my little brother. And you were doing employee reviews. Caitlin, during my 16 years in the restaurant business, I think when it came to just like servers, bartenders, I was a part of one company that did an employee review like once a year. So let's just give you a round of applause for that, because that's pretty spectacular. But, tell me about this amazing staff that you've been able to basically kind of bring into the fold here.
First, I'm going to brag about my review. So I've already mentioned, right, that like I was a teacher for 10 years, and we have, as you've already said, and I cannot say enough about my staff. The very first thing I want to recognize about them is that they do so much for so little. And I try very hard to be transparent and upfront with them that this is an endeavor that I am trying to wrap my mind around. I don't have a lot of experience in the area at all whatsoever. I've never owned a business. I've never I have very little restaurant experience beyond like a bit of like fast food in college or high school, like everybody. But like, so in terms of putting myself in a place where people have placed their trust in me for their livelihoods. I have an assistant manager who has been with me since day one, who is, a big part of how we have become so successful, because she is so different than I am. She's about 10 years younger than me. She is the introvert while I'm the extrovert. She is the clean while I am the big messy ideas. And And a lot of people have commented like it's like we're a married couple, and she's just the most amazing thing in the world for being able to kind of like hold on to my kite strings and make sure that what we do is realistic and feasible. But beyond that, we've got these teenagers, the local teenagers. We have 4 or 5 of them, and they are so excited to be in the space. These are all individuals who came into the cafe seeking employment before we were even really hiring. And just, I mean, one of which I have a number of non-binary staff, which is really, really valuable to me as somebody who is non-binary themselves, to have my staff and to be able to provide a space for 16, 17, 18-year-olds who are queer or non-binary in a town of 5,000 people in the middle of Missouri. They still get dead named and stuff at school by staff and things. So like to have a space where they can be safe and employed, it really fills my heart. I love having them there, but the responsibility level in these kids and their desire to be a part of building this space blows my mind. And honestly, the reason I did reviews is because they deserved to know just how phenomenal they are, and what myself and Jess, my assistant manager, what we see in them in terms of potential. So we have 2 staff right now, one of which is a key holder. So she's really working on getting upwards into that management kind of position. She can open, she can close. She's been with us for maybe 2 or 3 months, and she's just phenomenal though. She just came in and she's just an incredibly positive force. And then we have one of our just employees who's now 18. They just turned 18, but they're a senior in high school. And this person is like the most mature person, most responsible person I've ever met, regardless of age. And so when you see these people coming into this space, I mean, as I said, we've only been open 7 months. So even if they were there from day one, which neither of these 2 were, the fact that they have dedicated so much blood, sweat, and tears into this space already, Lex came in, my high schooler came in, and a couple months into us being open and sat at a table and just stayed until they worked up the courage to say, "Are you guys hiring?" And they just stayed there. It was like,
never left.
we just joked like they just weren't going to leave until I gave them a job. But every employee that works for the Dandy right now is, during their interview process, the main questions were like, why do you, the same thing you asked me, why do you want to be here? And every single one of them has said something to the effect of the fact that this space is here in Ashland, open, inclusive, not afraid to be authentic. It's something that we need, and it's something that I want to see grow. And when a 16-year-old sits across from you that you've just met and has the stoicism and the passion to say something like that to you, I mean, how you just start counting your dollars. How much can I pay you? Yeah. And so they have, and part of, I will take credit, like part of what makes us as good of a team as we are is they have access to anything they need access to. I will, if they need space or emotional support, or they need to take a step outside, or, I mean, I run the restaurant a lot like I ran my classroom. And that was like, regardless of your experience or your age or how neurodivergent you are, or if you happen to be on the spectrum. I swear to God, my whole staff is neurodivergent, queer, and on the spectrum in some way, shape, or form. Like all of us, including myself, we're just a mess. But because we all know that about each other, there's a lot of space and grace and love. And I hate the fact that it is like a family, because I hate using that word when it comes to work. But it really, truly is. You know, my teens know they can come and ask for help or ask for support. They break down and they cry, you know, in the middle of their shift. And all they're going to get from me is, what do you need? You know, what can I do? Like, you're gonna have me start cussing.
Hey, that's okay. It is uncensored, okay?
I'll shut the fuck up. They all know. And I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I'll shut the fucking restaurant down. Like, if it's me and another teen working, we can't get somebody in, and something that is catastrophic, whether it is actually a catastrophe, but something that is catastrophic in their life is happening. Yeah, we shut the fucking restaurant. Like, and I just care so much for them. And that's why I did the review. That's, you know, big, long answer for, that's why I did the review. It was a 15-point performance factor.
Love that.
And each of them, you know, today, Lynn, after her performance review yesterday, I came in because she opened, and she was like, so I did this and I did this and I did this. And I tried to do this something a little bit different because, you know, I'm here to learn and grow. And I was just like, the Kool-Aid is strong, but like, God love you. Thank you so much. Like, that's amazing. That's exactly what I want, is for everybody to just recognize that they're human and that we all make mistakes, and that's okay. And there's room for us to grow. If I may go on a tangent, I'm going to, sorry. The only people that have experience in my restaurant in restaurants are like my chef and a wonderful gentleman who has years and years and years of experience in a kitchen, has worked at wonderful places in Columbia, like Cherry Street Wine Cellar. He's just like, a fantastic man.
Throw him out, because I'll put him on the podcast too.
Oh, Les Hahn. Like, he's so amazing. And he's retired now, and he has his chickens, and he, you know, still helps out with Cherry Street and like gets their compost, comes and gets our compost, but also works for us. So like, these are the only two folks on staff who really have, besides Lynn, who's worked line cook at another restaurant in town, and then some of my staff have worked at like Subway or, you know, Pizza Hut or whatever. Right. But I'm trying to move because now I'm getting a weird light on my
It's that time of day.
Stop it. Let's scoot over this way. But, you know, my chef, one of the very first things that happened when he started working with us was, outside of just creating the recipes and stuff, he was online one day, and the teenagers were being teenagers, and they don't always have the greatest like awareness of what's going on around them. And one of them was like sitting down, and he like starts throwing, I mean, not a fit, but like clearly visibly, this is not how a kitchen runs. And nor should it be. I agree. But his reaction was that of a commercial kitchen. And obviously, you know, I haven't had that experience, but you've had that experience. And I've watched enough, like, you know, TV to know that's what it was. And like, my kids were the teens were just like, obviously just like gobsmacked. And I just had to look at him and be like, dude, that is not the vibe. That is not the vibe. No. And I was just like, you know, and we've come so far from me telling him, like, if you make my teenagers cry. But he, you know, now it's so funny because just the other day, one of my teens was like, now that I understand Jordan and I know him a little bit better, like I really enjoy working with him. And I'm like, yeah, I know I wouldn't bring a shitty person into like I wouldn't bring a shitty person into our kitchen. He just has standards. That's why he's so good.
Mm-hmm.
So, but no, I mean, I could talk to you for like the entire podcast about my staff. I would just like literally just sit here and gush about like each one of them and how amazing they are.
Mm.
But needless to say, I above and beyond every single one of them. And honestly, it's part of what makes some of the stuff you're going to ask me about when we talk about challenges and hurdles. It's what makes that shit the worst. Like that's what makes it the worst is I would give this team anything. If I could, I mean, I would pay them everything I could, if I could, because to me, each of them is worth far more than what I'm able to pay them right now. And that breaks my heart because is it okay if I talk about like hurdles and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, that was,
or do you want to guide it? I swear to God.
It's okay. Let me set it up a little bit so folks have a good understanding of the space where your space exists. So Ashland is a town of between 3,500 to 5,000, depending on how exactly you measure the area around this town. But it's southern Boone County. It's about 15 minutes south of Columbia, Missouri. So if you're in Columbia, make a drive down, go to the Dandelion. There's my pitch. I'll get you another one later. But it is a smaller town. It's a town where the Future Farmers of America are one of the biggest pieces of the high school. It's a town that when I went to high school there, for the first couple of years, we were still allowed to have guns in the trunk of our car when we were parked in the parking lot. Like it is a smaller town. And I just want to kind of frame this to understand that the space that you're creating within this space is the epitome of countercultural. And when a lot of folks talk about countercultural in Columbia, I really do laugh because Columbia is while it certainly has its very conservative side, it is a very progressive town. And I've existed in spaces in Kansas City and Denver, Las Vegas, and spent times in multiple metros. And so the space that you created, I think you even told me some folks came in, they say it's like Portland, they say it's like Seattle, they say it's like their favorite coffee shop in the very hipster part of town, right? And so nothing like this exists within the space of Ashland, and nothing like this has existed within the space of Ashland. So when you're opening up, one of the biggest struggles was really kind of right off the bat with people just barely even having an idea what the space was going to be like, but you were already starting to get pushback. So let's talk a little bit about where you exist in the community and some of the challenges that you've had, and then who's embraced you in the community as well, because I know that there's been two sides of it.
Oh, I wouldn't even say there's been two sides. I would say there's the vast majority of people, and then there is, as always, the squeaky wheels. To give them a side, to give those who don't want to see a space that has seriously no other mission than to lead with love. There's no ulterior motive. Like there is no agenda. There's no anything like that. And that is definitely the mindset of those that don't seem to be supportive of the Dandelion Cafe or the space that we've brought into that town. And that's more, I have to preface this entire conversation, the part of this entire conversation with the fact that I have been out and queer in some fashion for 22 plus years. And as a member of a marginalized community, that you get used to having to stand up for your existence, justify your existence on a regular basis. And so these things that seem so awful or over the top or just completely eye-opening to, you know, cisgender heterosexual white individuals, of which I am, you know, one of those things, right? And specifically, you know, my landlord, for example, has come miles since we met. You know, he likes to joke that it was like a trial by fire because right, he is your typical, like, he is what you would think of when you think of someone who is a businessman, when you think of someone who is in the property business and in the renting to small businesses business, you know. But watching him realize what has been going on and how people react to us has been one of the most eye-opening things for me, because I'm used to being like honked at or yelled at or, you know, thought ill. I knew people were going to have an issue with our space, with the way that we had built it and how authentic and open we were being. We have a painting in our entry that says, "Sorry, we do business our way." Because I got an email from somebody who had tried to do some business with us, and I hadn't, you know, backed down to their demands for something. And they were like, "I'm sorry, you do business this way." And I'm just like, what is happening? Like, why are people, oh man. But the biggest things have been, and like I said, it's not two sides. There's so much love. There's so much love and light in that community. And there's so many people every single day I get told, "I'm so happy you're here. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for being here. We needed this. Ashland needed this. We want more spaces like this." And that to me way outspeaks the folks who have said terrible things. But in the beginning, when we were first getting some stuff off the ground, we were working with some other businesses locally, getting some supplies, some properties that are near to ours. We were having some issues with knowing where the line was or knowing where the trash was supposed to go, all of those things that when you move into a new space, you're just kind of trying to figure out. And everything was well and good until we put our flags up. And then suddenly there was no discussion about shared parking or being able to have employees park around back or having, sharing the dumpster or anything of that nature. There have been attempts to flood our property by way of redirecting stormwater. There have been people who, there's been another gentleman who got frustrated with the way that I handled a timeline that they had given us, and it just was not realistic, and I couldn't take care of everything. Brought a bunch of stuff that had gotten left behind in a space that I had been renting and wasn't my stuff, but was a part of that property, and they just brought it and left it on my deck outside the restaurant. People have left personal garbage. We've had folks, my assistant manager finally had to turn the Google phone off of her personal cell phone because she got 2 phone calls through the Google line. Nobody had gotten her phone number, but 2 phone calls in a row where someone called and accused her of being a pedophile. And it's little stuff like that I expected, but I don't tolerate it towards my staff. And so I call it out and I put it on social media, and I, will challenge folks to come in. And my answer is always come into the space. Let me buy you a meal. Sit down and talk to me. Tell me what your concerns are. Let me talk to you. My biggest belief is, and this is something that my friends and especially my assistant manager, Jess, she likes to remind me that I am very good at giving multiple chances. Part of why part of, I have a lot of love. I have a lot of love to give. I love hard. And I believe that people are at their core good for the most part, and that there is something inside of everyone that is maybe hurting or needs clarification or needs information. And it is truly just ignorance in the most definition way of ignorance. Like I'm not trying to use it as an insult or anything of that nature. It's ignorance in its truest form. You have no idea that I'm human. You've dehumanized me and my population, my community, in some way, shape, or form in your head. Be it because of your religion or your upbringing or your lack of interaction with someone, your fear that maybe, we are what all of the, rumors and stereotypes say in terms of thinking that we're pedophiles, that we're only that transgender individuals strictly want to access the bathroom facilities of, individuals of their same gender or opposite gender. And it's stuff like that is demoralizing. But, then you have the comments of people, and I don't have to say anything on social media anymore. Typically I will, if something gets put up on a message board or something, I sit for 24 hours and I just watch. And every time, the people who, the voices of good, the voices of love, the voices of support, those queer voices more and more often are speaking up, standing up, and saying, you don't get to say that kind of thing. You don't get to question why there's a drag queen story hour. You don't get to say that it's immoral, it's illegal, the parents should be arrested. There are folks on there who can speak with such grace and eloquence, and I don't have to. And that is something that has happened for the first time for me, because I have always caused a bit of trouble, good trouble, but trouble. And I've always had to stand up for myself. And that is the one thing that I will say has been indicative of the impact that we have on the community, is that the community stands up, speaks up, and supports us.
That's just fantastic to hear. And, I've certainly had some very tough moments with you as things were getting off the ground and some different things are popping up. And it's so wonderful to see that you have been able to let the stuff slide off your back. I think that 24 hours is so important, and letting the community show their support for you is really the way to go, because you're making an impact on so many people's lives. And the haters out there, for lack of a better term, are trying to stir up something to make you say something that will create much more significant issues. And it's just, I applaud you. And this is one of the reasons why I want to do this podcast and why I wanted to have you on as the first guest, is because I need people to understand who you are. And they can certainly disagree with you, and I disagree with you on certain things, whether you know it or not. You could probably guess, but I love you, and I know that you love me. And I think that that's really cool, that two people with way different backgrounds can come together and just embrace each other and help each other out in some really cool ways. And so now I'm the one getting emotional over here, but the conversations need to start happening with people that you disagree with. The constant walls that are being put up and just throwing stones over and hoping to hit someone, whether you know their views are really or not, is frustrating. And so, while it certainly is a podcast about restaurants and cafes, coffee shops, this is more so helping people to understand that the dandelion isn't a sign, the dandelion isn't a building. The dandelion is this group of people brought together by you that are here to help people in the community that don't feel like they have a voice, that don't feel like they have a place where they can go and be themselves, that don't feel like they have a support system, whose family life, maybe they come home to abuse, maybe they come home to a lack of parents entirely. And you've created a space where they can come in and have a cup of coffee and sit down and spill their guts to you, and you give them a hug and show your support and say, what can I do?
Yeah.
And I need people to understand that. And, over the past couple years, the restaurant business has taken its damn lumps, right? We were deemed non-essential, right? Society did its best to make sure that people weren't coming into restaurants. And I think one of the reasons why we've seen a rapid disconnect of people and why these barriers have been built and people would rather throw stones through social media or whatever is because this place where people could talk things out was just eliminated for months, sometimes even a year plus. And so I encourage those people to come through your door, to have a conversation with you, and to at least walk away coming with an understanding that you love them very, very much, and that they're always welcome in your establishment, even if they disagree with you. And they could yell and they can, be rude, and they can do this and that, but at least sit down and have a conversation with you. So the fact that you've been able to do what you've done, I find to be extremely impressive. And so my heartfelt gratitude to you for what you're doing. During my 16 plus years in the restaurant business, I've had and met a lot of, you call them your kids, but young people in the restaurant business that didn't have a space to operate like this, didn't have a boss that took care of them. And I hope that my restaurant folks, my operators and managers were taking notes whenever you were talking about your staff and what you're doing for them, because that's how you change people's lives. That's how you get the person who maybe has no shot at college to getting to college, a person who has no career path, decides that they want to open up a restaurant up in, or a cafe up in Hallsville or Harrisburg or wherever the small town, despite the fact that they're walking into a very countercultural difference. And so I appreciate you a lot. And I love you very much. And thank you so much for what you do. Because it's super special. You're changing lives.
I get asked all the time if I miss education, and it's really hard for me to answer that question because so much of what I loved doing in the classroom and the privileges that I was given in terms of being able to work with young people and interact with them and be a safe space for them. So much of why I was a teacher, I get to still do with the Dandelion Cafe, but I get to do it for people of all ages. There's every interaction with someone is an opportunity for both individuals to realize things about themselves and others, and just the exposure of getting to, I don't have children. I don't want kids. Leave that to you guys. But we have kids that come into the space. Thank you. But we have kids that come into the space and they interact with us, and we get to have those conversations. I have, moms who come in with their small ones, or dads who come in, while they're with their babes too. And I have couples of all genders, all races, all shapes, all sizes. Every single person comes through there. I've had a group of 5 or 6 older women playing Scrabble with their dictionary, literally with their thick ass dictionaries. And I swear to God, all of them have gray hair, and Megan the Stallion is playing on the radio, and we're all just laughing. That's what the Dandelion is to me, is that space where, yeah, you're gonna, that's really the best image for it, is 5 old ladies playing Scrabble, playing fucking Scrabble, not joking about it, with Megan the Stallion on in the background, just bopping, living their best lives.
Beautiful.
And being served by a 17-year-old non-binary, individual, and they're all using the right pronouns. And it's just, yeah. In my head, it's the way it should be. And, good things need, this is my biggest heartbreak right now, is good things need seem to need so much more money.
Mm.
Like, I just feel like when you have good intentions, it's hard to succeed.
Mm.
Things have been built and the system has been built on the understanding of and the acceptance of this kind of like backhanded, like, step on people to make money. You know, I cringe, you know, you said, you know, when you've talked to a lot of folks, like their why is like, I want to make some money. I want to share this recipe. I want to do this. I want to get rich, blah, 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 blah. Like my why is like just existing. I just need that space to stay there. Like I'll burn it. Like I will like drive it into the ground before I let it die, because the most important thing, I mean, we'll get rid of food. We'll get rid of coffee. I'll make it a fucking club. Like I will make it a fucking clubhouse if I have to, you know, if all I can do is pay the rent and just sit there all day and paint just so that there's a place for people to come in, then that's what I'll do. But it does. That's just what I think about all the time is I just want to stay. I just want to stay. I just want to stay.
Very good. Well, we're coming up on the end of our time here, but you know, one of the last questions, I'll kick it to you. What do you got coming up? What's new and exciting at the Dandelion? I know that your brain functions with all these amazing ideas.
Oh my gosh.
I feed off that creativity, but you know, what's coming up? What's coming up now the school year started for you?
So we have, so we're open. I'm pretty proud. Our schedule now is we're Tuesday through Sunday, 8 to 3 o'clock. We're trying out this coffee cart thing in the mornings. I'm not sure it's going to fly. We'll probably, just because of like, you know, the age old labor costs versus sales. But, you know, giving away free coffees on Friday mornings. We did that last Friday. I don't care if I have to pay for it out of my own wallet. It was so worth it. Yeah. To just make that, again, to make that connection with the community was just so worth it. But we do trivia, we do karaoke every month. You know, we're going to be a presence in Hartsburg for Pumpkin Fest this year, which I'm really excited about. Yeah, I'm really super excited about that. And then, you know, we continue to do those kinds of things, but we are also now opening Tuesdays and Thursdays. We stay open 3 to 5 so that we can do a study hall for students. Because school gets out a little early on Wednesdays. We're not open on Mondays, and on Friday, I am not staying later. So Tuesdays and Thursdays were really the days that we knew only being open till 3 was going to be, you know, not cool for the teens and for the youth in Ashland. And so much of what we want to do is be available for young people in Ashland. And over the summer, we were available for young people in Ashland. So we stay open 3 to 5 o'clock, and students get a 15% discount on all food and beverages while they're there during that time.
Very cool. Oh, that's wonderful. So if I'm looking for the Dandelion Cafe, where are you located in Ashland?
So we are at the corner of Broadway and Main. We are a part of the group of individual businesses on the corner of Broadway and Main, Century Tattoo, King Theodore Records, and then ourselves, the Dandelion Cafe, kind of exist in that little corner space. We ourselves are on Main Street, a little bit just south of Century Tattoo on Main Street. So from that corner of Broadway and Main, you can pretty much see us. Just look for the flags. That's what everybody says.
Easy to find once you see the flags.
It's very kind of a dead giveaway that we're there.
Gotcha. Website?
Dandelion, as in a fancy big cat, onmain.com. So DANDYLIONONMAIN on Main.
You guys do online ordering or anything through there?
We do.
Hey!
So when setting this up, and I don't know if I ever said this to you, but when setting up this entire project, it very much felt like I was the old man in Jurassic Park. where he's like walking around showing everything off and being like, spared no expense, spared no expense. It feels just about as good for me as it did for him in the end.
Right.
But because of that, I have the most magnificent like programs and systems. So we have an online ordering system that is just, it's flawless. It's wonderful. We haven't had any issues yet since opening it up only a few weeks ago, which is, I think, a huge testament to the program. We have a loyalty program, which people earn money really fast on that thing. So, our Instagrams, Facebook, all of those things. We always put all of our entertainment and stuff up there. You know, I have big plans for becoming an even bigger resource for individuals in the community. We work hand in hand with a number of local organizations already, including like the Mid-Missouri Art Alliance and Helping Hands in Southern Boone County. The Chamber of Commerce, all of those, like, it's just, it fills my heart. And when I can stave off the anxiety of owning a restaurant and having to actually pay people things and hope that my bank account doesn't go into the negative, it is the most rewarding thing in the world.
There you go. Excellent. Well, Caitlin World, we're going to get this out here very soon, but it's been a pleasure having you on. And nothing but the most success for you in Ashland. And as I said earlier, if you haven't met Caitlin in Ashland, even if you disagree, please stop in and say hi. Caitlin will be more than happy to speak with you. Have a great night.
Bye, love.